Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 179 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you again on another Wednesday night, February 7th, right on the dot, 7 p.m. We had some Celtics news break about an hour and a half ago, which we'll get to in a little bit. Everybody knows probably at this point. But first, we have the Super Bowl, of course, this Sunday. We'll preview it, give our picks, and prop bets as we do every year. Ryan, how are you feeling ahead of Super Bowl Sunday?
I am anticipating it. I'm very excited, of course, as I'm sure most football fans are. I'm sure people have kind of set aside the it's another Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl again, woohoo, because it's the Super Bowl, and I don't know how you can just not get excited for the Super Bowl, no matter who's in it. Yeah, it kind of stinks. It's two teams maybe you didn't want in there. You'd like to see some new blood, but again, it's the Super Bowl. It's everything that comes with it, so I can't complain too much. And like I tweeted out earlier, like you just kind of alluded to, very nice of the Celtics to make a deal before we get on the air. Like if I figured that was as soon as we talked about all the guys that we think maybe they could trade for, they go out and make a deal for one of them like 5 minutes after we get off the air, or tomorrow when we're posting the updated version of the show, or the obviously the posted version of the show. You figure a trade would go down somewhere around that time. But good to see that, something to talk about. Bruins back as well. Maybe not the best performance last night, but we'll get into that. And then I had a late addition to the outline as well. Red Sox making some news again this week for all the wrong reasons. Depending on how you look at it, I wanted to get your thoughts kind of to end the show very briefly. But other than that, and then too, yeah, like you said, the exciting thing, the Bovada, the prop bet sheet, which is always fun to do. Which I have some news. My buddy who does that, my buddy Danny. So if he's listening, shout out to him. Funny, he sent it to me today asking if I wanted to do it. I told him we'd be talking about it on the podcast tonight. So hopefully he's listening. And also invited you, if you would like to screenshot this, put your picks in and send me $20. I will send over 40 to him. And then you can be in the running to potentially win all the money. If that's something you are interested in.
Potentially.
Okay. We'll get that figured out maybe after the show or at some point.
Yes.
No rush, but I just thought I'd put the offer out there because he did.
Yes, I appreciate it. But yeah, Super Bowl 58. Not the matchup a lot of people wanted. We wanted something a little different. That's okay. 49ers Chiefs.
We've been here before. We have seen that story.
We find ourselves in another precarious position where we need a team to be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And
not had a hero yet.
We have not had a hero yet. 49ers are a different story, although the Ravens, who just lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, beat the 49ers late in the regular season. I don't know how I feel. Like, I want to pick the 49ers because I think they're the better team, but I kind of lost my train of thought there, if you couldn't tell.
Okay.
I want to pick them, but I can't. Like,
it's a narrative we brought up
into the details, but
no, I got you. I was gonna say it's a narrative we've brought up. I feel like 3 weeks in a row now. Definitely not the Miami game because we all kind of knew they were frauds in the making, and that turned out to be true. But the Buffalo game, I feel like we kind of thought, better team, they're the hotter team. Maybe you could argue the hotter team. Obviously, the Bills, of course, went out to get in. You thought maybe they were better than the Chiefs on paper. They end up, same fate as usual, lose to them. Definitely thought the Ravens were the better team on paper. It turns out that they are frauds as well. So, you don't want to give the same jinx to the 49ers that I feel like we've given the last two teams when it comes to these Chiefs matchups. But you're right. They are the better team. They should be the one on paper that wins. But there is that factor of how much do you trust? Again, I like him. We've talked about him before. I don't like the slander when he plays bad. How much do you trust Brock Purdy to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes? And again, it's the factor that, guys like Mahomes, Kelsey, they've been here before. There's some 49ers players that haven't been. I don't know if we're going to touch on that last 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl. It's two different looking teams, but there were some similar players, a young Debo, a young Kittle, might have been Bosa's rookie year. So there have been guys that have played in this Super Bowl before. But it all, the veterans, it all lies on the side of the Chiefs. And I think that's kind of the thing that should scare you a little bit, maybe more than maybe some people it is, some people it isn't. But that's kind of where I'm at. Like I'm with you. I want to pick the 49ers, the better all around team. Um, but I can't find myself picking, maybe to spoil the picks here, but can't find myself picking against Mahomes, unfortunately, because he is just that, I think, difference factor. And I don't think it's obvious that that's the case. So
Yeah, I agreed. And 49ers are 1.5 favorites, over unders 47.5. Rooting for the 49ers too for our good friend from school, Guy Eddie, the only 49ers fan I know.
I
So
didn't even
shout
know
out
he
to
was a
him.
49ers fan. So yeah, absolutely.
I was texting him a little bit the past couple weeks about it. 49ers, better team on paper, but experience prevails, I think, so much in the Super Bowl. And I can't really put Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes. I think, the Chiefs are going to come out ready and maybe shell shock the 49ers at times, but overall, I think it'll be a close game. As you've noted here, the 49ers have done historically well in Super Bowls besides their last two. Everything up until 2013 when it comes to the Super Bowl was fine. 5 Super Bowl wins in a row, spanning from 82 to 85. They had 5 in that span. It's pretty good in 13 years. But 2013, they lose to the Ravens, and 2020, they lose to the Chiefs. Jimmy Garoppolo was holding it down, or trying to hold it down.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say this. 49ers didn't have Christian McCaffrey last time.
That is true. I've had this
George
conversation with my
Kittle,
dad before. We thought the
yeah.
same thing. Like
George Kittle has evolved. Deebo Samuel has evolved. They actually have a former Chief in Trevarius Ward, who's going to be an impact player. Greenlaw and Warner have really come along in that defense. Obviously, great coaching, but
that's the thing that worries me, though.
You can't just overlook the Chiefs. You just can't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if people remember back, I think we talked about it when it happens, and maybe I was a little bit more vocal at the time about it. You mentioned great coaching. Kyle Shanahan in that game, I don't know if you could say it was great coaching because, of course, the
Yeah, like
49ers. Yeah, I mean, they
I
had
think he's a good coach,
to.
but
It's fair, but
not the best at
again,
this time. So,
no,
yeah.
that's the thing that scares me too. Is the big
Yeah.
moment the guy has not been able to, or show that he has been able to not have the major screw ups in these moments. Again, like we just talked about with Brock Purdy versus Patrick Mahomes. You take Mahomes every time. This is a game too where, like, I feel like Andy Reid, he's done it before, could very well coach circles around Shanahan. You hope Shanahan learned, from his mistakes in that last Super Bowl. Again, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and you're letting Jimmy G chuck it everywhere. Again, Garoppolo did miss. I think it was Kendrick Bourne that, or either Kendrick Bourne or maybe was it Sanders on the touchdown pass he overthrew, whatever it was. So you could blame him there. But again, for the most part, why are you throwing in that situation to begin with? But as you just mentioned too, 49ers didn't have CMC at that point. That he's the difference maker to me. Again, it's dumb to say, like I just said, Mahomes is the difference maker. But 49ers are in a better position this time around to stick with their run game. They had Mostert at the time, who really wasn't anything to what he is now. Good running back, but definitely not the player that he's turned out to be. That's where it lies with me. If you're the 49ers, one, you have to get pressure on Mahomes. Again, obvious to say. But he really hasn't been touched all playoffs. We kind of thought the Ravens would get after him last week or 2 weeks ago now. Didn't really happen. That was one of the big surprising things from that game. I don't know if Joe Tooney's playing this one. I saw that he is probably going to be doubtful, so that's a big loss. Maybe that's something the 49ers can feast on. But that's where I'm at. Like, you need to get pressure on Mahomes in this game. I think the 49ers, have a decent shot to do that. And then if you can, hand the ball off a decent amount to CMC, run the game down a little bit, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. That's the chance the 49ers have in this one. Because as much as I like Brock Purdy and as good as he has been in these playoffs at times, if you have to get into a shootout with the Chiefs, he's not going to win. Like, I don't think he has the capacity to keep up with Mahomes. Obviously great offense around him, but the explosive plays and stuff like that, again, you mentioned it too with the experience, it all falls back onto the sideline of the Chiefs, and that's what scares me in this game.
Yeah, and speaking of explosive plays, we know the 49ers have tons of explosive potential, but it's also very interesting. Like, you could say each team in the receiving game has a three-headed monster. If you got to throw McCaffrey in there for the fourth one. And for the Chiefs, you've got Snead, you've got Trey McDuffie, and who's the third guy whose name is suddenly escaping me?
No.
Why is there one other guy's name escaping me?
We have the defensive players here.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can.
Why am I drawing? I feel like I shouldn't be drawing a blank on this name in the secondary.
Justin Reed, Mike Edwards.
No, I don't know.
I don't know if you're specifically thinking of corners, but
I conjured up another corner safety in my head, but I mean Mike Edwards is good too. That's not a bad guy to have, but um I think Snead and McDuffie have been pretty dominant all year.
yeah, they really have.
Um
Snead's been one of the best corners in the NFL all year. Like McDuffie's
so is
had his moments
McDuffie
here and
low
there,
key,
but
which
yeah,
stings because they got him with the pick. They swapped with the
yes,
Patriots.
they
The
did.
Joe not Joe Tooney. I got the wrong guard in my brain. The Cole Strange trade. Um hurts,
Pain.
pain, suffering. But I'm really looking forward to that because I mean, like, just elite players on both sides. I thought I had something more profound to say, but both sides of the ball, those matchups, that's gonna be really fun to watch. Where did I want to go with this? Chiefs. I was thinking some of the Chiefs. I wanted to run down their Super Bowls as well. Of course, they won 2 of their last 3. They've been in 54, 55, and 57. I don't. Did I put Super Bowl 54 in the title? I just realized I put Super Bowl 54 in the title.
Oh, we're going back to yeah.
We're going back in time.
Again, hopefully not a repeat of that Super Bowl, but
God
no,
damn it. Man,
it's
that's
okay.
a tough one.
People know what
I just send myself a little note to fix that. For the episode title. Because yeah, it's a tough one. People will get it though. You know, we're not time traveling here, folks. Yeah, the Chiefs have won 2 of the last 3. Pretty stuff. It really does come down to that coaching matchup, though, in the end. Reed for Shanahan. There's lots of places being Reed's last year. Will Travis Kelce retire? That also should go hand in hand with some people who don't want to acknowledge it. That when you're talking about the GOAT debate, you have to wonder if Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to keep winning Super Bowls if both, if not one of them,
if you
retire.
lose both those, yeah, yep.
But that doesn't line up with the argument for them. So,
real quick on that, I don't know if you caught any of the media day. I thought as much as he doesn't come off as annoying, but I mean it's more Patriots fans as myself talking about like just the distaste for Mahomes because again it's more so the fans that want to bring up like you said that he is already better than Brady. I don't know if you saw his answer to that question. Somebody asked him about if he's heard kind of the rumblings of him passing Brady. I thought he gave a great answer to that. That he's not even halfway there yet to Brady. So I think he said something along the lines of like ask me in
50, how that works.
Yeah, ask me in 15 years and then maybe we can have that conversation.
Dude,
I wish Chiefs fans or just football fans in general that want to anoint him the GOAT would hear that and just be like, oh, well, if he says it, maybe, we should kind of fall in line with the guy, like you said, that everyone is already anointing the greatest of all time. Again, I don't hate the player. I hate the coverage of, like you said, that he is already better than Brady because you could argue some stats, ability, you could maybe argue that, but definitely not the accolades yet. But he gets another one. He's in the conversation. You can start maybe a little bit more realistically talking about it. But we've talked about it before. As of right now, it is still a clear 1A. And then I think we were texting about it last week or during the Ravens game. Like, do you stick him ahead of Montana? I wouldn't yet. Stick him ahead of Manning, those type of things. Like, you'd put him ahead of Montana?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I think part of it too is probably just denial. They don't want to think about it yet.
Fair. Yep.
I think there's honestly a pretty solid chance that Andy Reid calls it if they win. Kelce, I don't know of as much, which might sound weird to some people because I feel like a lot of people have fallen into the idea will he propose on the field? Will he retire right after the game? Will he retire this season? Will he retire on the podcast? He's gonna retire on his podcast if anything. That's what they're all doing this for. Yep. It's got to be talked about because what if Patrick Mahomes doesn't really get close again? It's possible. He's very good. But that's a 3-headed monster. If you lose 2 of them in the same offseason, can the Bills surpass you? Can the Bengals with a fully healthy year of Joe Burrow surpass you?
Bengals, yes. Bills, no. We've talked about the Bills are fucking cursed.
No, but if they lose Andy Reid, though, dude.
It's fair.
I'm not saying the Chargers are going to be, but what if Jim Harbaugh fixes the defense and revitalizes the Chargers and they're in the playoffs? A Jim Harbaugh-led team in the playoffs, I probably wouldn't want to play them. I know it's his first time back in that scenario, but there are other teams too. I'm not going to run down the whole list, but it's something to monitor.
The
And
Patriots could
that's
maybe
like
get back there. Who
the
knows? Like,
Patriots.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
somewhere
know
down the
about that.
line, 20 years from
Um,
now.
yeah. I don't know. It's something that's more relevant after the game, but just throwing the breadcrumbs out there. Sorry to any Chiefs fans we triggered, but also not really sorry. Just gotta face reality here, folks.
Yep.
Because it could happen.
Speaking from
Yeah,
experience, all good things come to an end eventually.
yeah.
Like,
It comes back to broken record. Me and you were both done betting against Mahomes. I don't think we
mhm.
did it last week though, did we? We both picked the Chiefs last week. Yeah, I think we did.
I don't think so. I think at least I think I picked the Ravens.
I don't know. Why
I
do I
think
feel like we both picked the Chiefs? Maybe I'm wrong. Um, it's just this
can't
type of
remember. No,
matchup
I don't.
screams a classic football score like 27-24, 27-23, 24-20. Nothing out of the ordinary. I'm going 27-23 Chiefs. Mahomes MVP. Kelsey's got an outside shot. I think Pacheco does. Well, Kelsey not really an outside shot, but outside in terms of not being Mahomes. And
He's the
I'm with
most bet
you.
on I saw, which was surprising. I don't know if you saw that. I either one of the sports betting accounts on Twitter or
It
somebody
would add
posted
to
it the
the
other day. I
storyline,
saw
the whole story
it
of
would.
Travis Kelsey this year.
Yep, this is
But
true.
yeah, I'm on the same side as you. Little spoiler.
Mhm.
If it's San Francisco, I'm gonna say it has to be McCaffrey. Like, there's no
Yeah,
way
because
that
you.
if they win, McCaffrey is gonna go berserk.
Yep.
Um, or at least have like 110 total yards, which
Mhm. Yeah,
isn't
you're
really
thinking.
berserk for him
Well, I was gonna
technically,
say
but
just that alone on the ground, like you got to think at least two
mhm,
touchdowns are coming if he wins
mhm.
MVP. Which again, take it back to betting, the fact that he opened up as like plus 450 for MVP, like I would have figured him and Mahomes and him would have been 1 and 2. And like the fact that he was either third or fourth when I looked at it, during the AFC Championship game or after it, of course, I was like a little surprised by that. But I'm
Also,
with
my
you.
my
Go
somewhat
ahead.
dark horse, real quick, is L'Jarius Sneed.
Okay. No, no,
Game sealing interception, big time interception late.
mhm.
Got to
I was gonna
consider
say I don't know
that.
when was
Got
the
to
last
consider
Super Bowl
that.
that the defensive player won MVP. I would be curious to see.
I don't know, but every year I wonder. Every year I wonder, like if it's that big of a play, or they just absolutely go sicko mode.
I feel like
Um,
there's always at least
how
one
much you
defensive
consider?
guy that's kind of in the name or in the running, maybe midway through the game, and then you see a
Let's
quarterback
see.
or an offensive player kind of pull away at the end of things. Like I mean, we talked about it that Atlanta Super Bowl for the Patriots. Like
Yep.
very easily could have named Dante Hightower or put him in there for conversation for the strip sack that he had the other in that game. But
All right.
did you find
Do
it?
you want to take a guess who the last defensive player was? It's a tough one, but I wanted to give you the chance to guess because it would be awesome if you got it.
I
It's
think.
a linebacker on the Seahawks in Super
Oh,
Bowl 48. This is a tough one. I'll be fired up if you get this because it'd be a great guess.
wasn't Bobby Wagner, was it?
Nope.
No. I'm trying to think of like that Legion of Boom. See, because it's this. It was the who the Seahawks beat that year. That was it the Manning beatdown year?
Denver? Is that the
Yeah, that was
Denver
the
one? Yeah.
Manning. That was the Manning
He had
ass
an
kicking game. Yep.
interception. He had a pick six. He had a fumble recovery and 10 tackles.
I can't think of who the
If
other
you can think, if
badass
you can think of a
linebacker
pick
was on that
six,
team.
pick six. There's one big one that you're missing. There's a couple. There's like two or three names
Yeah,
that
I
I
was just.
think you
I
could
know
pull
there's
from.
like it's Wagner and somebody else with the two monsters on that defense, and I can't
Would you like
think
to
of who
know?
it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Malcolm Smith.
I would have never gotten that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's
Yep,
like
absolutely.
he's one of the lower end guys you think of. You think of Bruce
Mhm.
Irvin, you think of Cam Chancellor, you think of Bobby Wagner, Richard Sherman. But Malcolm Smith, yeah, little known fact. Maybe some people didn't know that. The
I don't know
last
why
time
I
a
wanted to
defensive
say
player
Von
won
Miller
before
for
then
like. Yeah,
was Ray Lewis in Super Bowl
that was probably the
35.
Super Bowl 35.
35.
Was that the San
Desmond
Francisco
Howard won
and
it for Green Bay, a kick returner in Super Bowl 31. Larry Brown in Super Bowl 30 for the Cowboys. Any other big names? No, not really. It's a lot of quarterbacks. Harvey Martin and Randy White in Super Bowl 12 shared the MVP. I didn't know that was a thing. Both defensive players, I believe. I looked at it quickly. But yeah, I mean, on to your prediction though. I think both of us have aligned pretty well in score
Mhm.
predictions for the most part. So, this might not come as a surprise to some people, but yeah.
Yeah,
How
I mean,
would you
I
do it?
wanted to. I for a second contemplated like a back and forth high scoring game, but I just think these two defenses are very good. The Chiefs defense has been excellent. They've been arguably from a statistics points better. You look at this, we didn't really go through it. I'm not going to go through the numbers here, but just looking at playoffs alone, it is the best offense, or the better of the two offenses on the 49ers side of things from, total yards and a points per game for these playoffs so far. But then on the flip side of that, the Chiefs have had the better defense, 13.7 points per game through their couple of playoff games, and their yardage stats are better than the 49ers all around. So it is a very, very high-end offense, very, very good defense. The Chiefs, you could maybe argue, or I think you definitely could argue that they've been carried by their defense most of the year. Playoffs, it's been a different story, obviously, with how Mahomes has looked at times. Like I said, you got to go with the Chiefs, got to stick with Mahomes. I'm not going to bet against them until I'm proven otherwise. 24-20, low-scoring game, maybe low-scoring depending on how you look at it. Definitely the under in that case with, like you said, Mahomes the MVP. CMC again, you'd have to lean on him. 49ers think that they would have to do that. They should do that. Keep the ball out of the Chiefs' hands and Mahomes' hands. That's like the one chance I think they have of winning. Maybe a dark horse that San Francisco wins as well. Fred Warner, he's had a very good playoff so far. Could very easily see him taking over the game if he's allowed to do so. But that Chiefs offensive line, even without Joe Thuney, has been very good in these playoffs. So it might be very tough to see how that goes down. But we're hoping for in this case an upset with both of our picks. But like we said, it's just so tough. The Chiefs, they could sleepwalk through the whole season and then just turn it on, as we've seen. To the point again where it looks like Travis Kelce is cooked, he's washed, he's going to retire, and then he's had an excellent playoff as well. So can't bet against him.
The thing about Kelce potentially retiring too is this is Rashee Rice's first opportunity. Like, say Kelce retires, and Mahomes doesn't have that de facto like all-time great tight end. Maybe Rashee Rice comes that next guy, but at receiver.
Maybe they draft very good.
Maybe they draft a receiver, and he eventually becomes the guy. It's not to say that Mahomes can't find a go-to guy, but losing Kelce after this game is a big thing to monitor. Part of me kind of wanted for a second when I was looking earlier today to go a little lower scoring, like the Ravens game, like a 17-13 or something, because I could see this being pretty low scoring.
Yep.
Might surprise some people there, but I don't know. I just can't do it. Didn't feel right. But yeah, I mean, if you're the 49ers too, it's you're not playing the Eagles in this case, but I imagine they still have that playoff run last year in the back of their minds and looking for revenge.
Yep.
George Kittle's always been very vocal, about like his passion, like desire to get back. Like, also, in the offseason, they talked a lot of shit about the Eagles. Now the Eagles are gone. You got to deal with the Chiefs. You got to deal with the guys who the Eagles lost to. Let's see if you can do it. They got a lot to play for outside of the obvious, wanting to win a Super Bowl. Shanahan, this is a legacy starter, maybe a legacy reigniter. I don't know how you want to say it, but like he can shut up some people if he like coaches a really good game, like wins on like a game-sealing interception, like leads the game-winning drive with Brock Purdy. Like that could really change the narrative on him a little bit. So it's gonna be fun. Like I know a lot of people are like poo-pooing this Super Bowl because it's Chiefs and 49ers again. They don't want to see the Chiefs, Taylor Swift, like whatever. I don't really care. Like I'm in the mindset of a lot of people now where like Taylor Swift's actual screen time takes such a small amount of the broadcast. Like it's whatever. Like she's the most popular person in the world. Like, come on. I can't wait for the season to be over just to not hear about that. People will still talk about it and bitch, but not hear about it every week maybe. But it's whatever. It's still a Super Bowl. Like it's the last football game for a long time. So
real quick, because you mentioned an interesting thing, and we kind of touched on it at the start. You mentioned a legacy potentially starter, or however you want to look at it for Shanahan. Could you see it going the other? Like, because I'm kind of on that fence. Could see it going the other way. I know I gave my thoughts earlier of he's been in this moment before and wasn't able to live up to the big moment. If he loses again, you think that goes the other way? You think his legacy, quote unquote? I mean, a guy hasn't won a Super Bowl, so I don't know how much of a legacy you can say he has. Because I heard this the other day, they were talking about it. I think I was listening to Zolak and Bertrand at work. Was on the side of the Falcons collapse in the Super Bowl. Was on the side of the 49ers collapse in the first Super Bowl these two teams played each other in. He loses again. Like, I think there might be a little bit of that aura around him. Like, gets to the big moment and can't really great regular season coach like we've seen plenty of guys before. But when it gets to the playoffs, like he's not that guy. So that's what I'm worried about with him too. Because I like him. I think he's a good head coach. But again, I'll harp on it because I harped on it when it happened. Like you need to get over the hump before you really start, having, like you said, this is this big legacy. And I'm not calling you out or anything, but just I feel like some
No,
people
I
kind of share
totally
that
get what you
thought
mean.
that he's like top tier echelons of coaching when it's like, hey, you got to get over that hump first and prove that you don't,
Hmm.
crap all over
Yep,
yourselves in these moments.
totally. And like we've seen plenty. We see it every year. We see coaches get poached. Like there's a chance they lose a guy like Clint Kubiak. There's a
Hmm.
good chance they lose some of their staff. So this is a big one. You want to win with this great group you have. So it's a big
Absolutely.
one. I mean, Niners fans too. It's been a long time since they won their last Super Bowl. So it'd be cool to see. Like I think a lot of people, you know, I don't really know why people hate the 49ers, but it feels like there's a big segment of fan bases that do. But for them, it'd be their first one since '95. We weren't even
Hmm.
alive. So, ooh, nice
I was
little
wondering
rhyme
the
there.
same thing. The only thing I
Um,
could really think of is it's probably the same reason a lot of people are probably going to hate Dodgers moving forward, just because they have all the superstars, like they have all these big name guys.
mhm,
Maybe it's
yeah.
what you mentioned that they've, in the last couple of years talked a lot of shit, haven't really been able to back
Mhm,
it up. So maybe that's something that turns some people off. But yeah, I'm with you. I found that one a little interesting too. Like I get the fatigue of the Chiefs for people, but 49ers, like you said, they've been here a couple times over the last handful of years. Not like this is a team you see every year, so it is kind of interesting to
yep.
look at it.
Yeah. On to props. The first one who won the Super Bowl? We both have the Kansas City Chiefs. It was also the coin toss. I'm gonna go tails.
I'm going tails as well. This is the one I do a little bit of looking up, a little bit of math on. Last couple times the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl, it has been tails. Um, Although the last time it was Chiefs and
Super Bowl
49ers
ring?
when maybe, but I was gonna say the last time it was Chiefs 49ers, I believe when I looked it up the other night, it was heads. So I'm gonna go against the grain there and go with tails. They say tails never fails, but who knows
Yeah.
how true that is.
I just fire from the hip, man, and
All
that's what
right.
I'm doing with the third one. Who won the coin toss? I'm going Niners.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs.
All right then. Um,
Don't know why, just decided kind of the same as you. Like,
will any word be forgotten or omitted from the national anthem? I'm gonna say no.
yeah, I know. I feel like this one's come up a couple times. I've been doing these, like I've said, for a while now with a group of buddies of mine. I think this has been on here before. I don't know why you would ever, unless you're just like Fergie level of stupid when it comes to the national anthem. I don't know if you remember
Oh
that NBA
man,
All Star one from a couple of
the
years ago.
one of the
Um,
best videos ever. Seeing
yes,
their
with all the
reactions.
NBA All Stars laughing at her and trying to not.
Draymond and Steph's reactions in
Yeah,
particular,
yep,
so good, so
yep.
good. Um,
Um, but yeah, I'm gonna
who?
go with no as well. I don't know how. Like, if your
Yeah,
tabs with singing the
come on,
national
man.
anthem. Real quick, any thoughts? This is something we really haven't. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on halftime performances or anything. But just the lineup, because I thought it was incredibly weird when it came out, having Reba sing the national anthem, Post Malone do "America the Beautiful," and then Usher as the halftime show. Like, I feel like three completely different levels of like not stardom, but I don't like the type of music they are, like genre, I
Mm.
guess. Like when I saw that come out, I'm like, that is a very weird trio to have.
Yeah,
Any
I don't
thoughts on
mind
that
it.
or
I
no?
think Post Malone doing America the Beautiful is going to be sick, and I hope he has
Yeah,
like an
absolutely. That's
electric
the one I'm
guitar
looking
or
forward to the
something.
most. Yep.
That's something I could see him like pull out an electric guitar and
Hmm.
somehow pull that out. That'd be sweet. Um, yeah, it doesn't really matter though to me.
Yep.
I think the league has positioned itself at this point for Taylor Swift next year, so um, Usher will be one up next year. I bet.
Oh,
I'd be
absolutely.
very
Yeah.
shocked if Taylor Swift doesn't do it next year. Um, I don't know. She's a busy woman.
Who will be shown
And
first?
Usher, I mean, like
Mhm.
that's gonna be a pretty cool halftime show. Everybody, I feel like every year now with the halftime show, everybody's like it sucks at first, but then like,
Mhm.
that's just people reacting hastily. I think
Yeah.
Usher's gonna do a good job. Who will be shown first, Mahomes or Purdy? I mean, come on now. It's
Yeah, I think
Mahomes.
out of all the ones we have on here, and watch us probably be wrong, watch it be Brock Purdy, but I feel like this is a layup. Like the amount of coverage Mahomes and the Chiefs, just again for being there so much, he's gonna get. It's got to be
Hmm.
Mahomes that gets shown first.
Yeah, it has to be. What will be the first offensive play of the game? This one's just another toss up. I'm just gonna go run play though.
Hmm. I'm right there with you. I think it's obviously the safest play in the book. I mean, with the Chiefs, you could maybe, if they get the ball first, want to come out and maybe punch the 49ers right in the mouth, and go with a pass play. But part of me thinks they're going to win the coin toss, like I said, and defer, try to get that score at the end of the half and score again at the start of the second, so the Niners will
Hmm.
get it. And you have, like we talked about, the best running back in football, so why not run with him on the first play of the game and Christian McCaffrey?
I want to see someone do like a flea flicker or like a
Something crazy,
run
yeah.
like four verticals in the start of the game.
Mhm.
That would be hilarious.
Throw a Hail
Um,
Mary right out of the gate, see what
yeah,
happens. Yeah.
yeah. This one's kind of crazy. Will points be scored in the first 2 minutes? No, like I feel like the likelihood of that's pretty slim.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. You did skip the which will be the highest scoring half one. That was the one
Oops.
before that. It's okay. It
Um,
happens.
second half.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like first half usually, or definitely the first quarter is a feeling out phase. Second half is I feel like when you tend to see teams start to figure it out a little bit, especially desperation time late in the fourth quarter. That's when the scoring starts to get going. I think that Super Bowl last year, if I have to take a guess, I feel like probably the fourth quarter and second half, of course, was where the most scoring was done. So I'm gonna go with that one again.
All right.
You alluded to it
Um,
with scored in the first 2 minutes. I think we both said no, correct?
yeah. No.
Okay, good to know.
First touchdown. Chiefs or 49ers. I'll go 49ers for good vibes.
Yeah, I did as well. Just like I said, I think they'll get the ball first, run it with CMC, give him a touchdown on that opening drive, try to get him an MVP, and as we say with our predictions, you know how that kind of will go in the end.
Good enough. Will be a roughing of the passer penalty? I'm gonna say yes. I'm
It's
gonna
a
say yes.
again, I don't want to bring the referees into it, but it's Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Like, come on, someone's
Hmm.
gonna get flagged for something ticky tacky, or I'm not gonna say they're gonna take a run at Mahomes or anything, but gonna happen.
Yeah. Will the first turnover be an interception? I'm gonna say yes. Just
I'm gonna go with no. I don't know why. I'm leaning more like a strip sack or someone's getting stripped over the middle, going for a couple extra yardage.
the
Um,
Bruins coming out and playing like the people on TikTok are doing like the 2019 Bruins
yeah,
in the
yep,
Super Bowl.
yeah,
Sean Corrali's gonna come at Patrick Mahomes like a spider monkey.
mhm.
You know.
Yeah. I mean
Ah,
that very well could be either one though. Like my dad was talking about it at dinner tonight. Like he thinks because we were reading him off. He thinks too. This is where the experience might show up. Purdy gets a little antsy, maybe throws a bad pick, but I'm gonna stick with some sort of fumble, strip sack, something along the lines of that. So I'm gonna go with no.
yeah. This is the one thing I hope we don't see with the whole Travis and Taylor stuff because I think it would be super performative. It'd be cool, but
Gonna
will
say the
Travis
same
Kelsey
thing.
perform to Taylor Swift on the field? If he does that, it would be so
Be
perfectly like
corny.
look at me, corny
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey, in my opinion. And I would hope Randy Orton would come out from the stands and RKO him after the fact. So
Mhm. The one thing I am worried about, again, just scrolling the internet last night, because obviously the Grammys were a couple nights ago. He had the comments, and he meant it as like getting a ring or a championship, obviously. But he said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I got to get my hardware now" or something after she whatever Grammy she won the other night. Like, I kind of hope that isn't like a tongue in cheek, wink, wink, like, "Oh, I'm also going to get a ring of a different kind in this type of sense." And he proposes to her. That'd be like you said, kind of corny, kind of hammed up, and like you said, maybe for just the cameras type of thing. So I'm gonna go with no, hoping it doesn't happen.
mhm. This one doesn't really require a lot of explaining, given our scoring predictions. I have even for the odd or even total
I do as
points.
well.
Alrighty. Um, 14 will be an over under of 47.5 points again with our score. I have 50 points being scored, so I said over.
And I went with the under.
Alrighty then. Will quarterback win MVP? I say so. Yes, Patrick Mahomes. Expect the Chiefs to win. Expect Mahomes to win another MVP.
Right there with you.
Alrighty.
Keeping
We'll
it
throw
short
for
and
more
simple for this.
yards. Yeah. I think you'd be foolish to pick Brock Purdy in this, not because he's not good, because he never like consistently blows you away with his passing yards. I feel like
Hmm.
he's usually just more like a game manager, like efficiency type quarterback. So I'm going Mahomes.
Yeah, I mean, this one, even if the 49ers win, like we kind of alluded to it numerous times, we think it's going to be more of a bigger CMC game than anything else. So obviously, it's going to take the ball out of Purdy's hands, don't have to throw it as much. Maybe if that's the case, Mahomes will have to be in the desperation mode, desperation time, and be chucking it. But even if that's not the case, it's going to be Mahomes. Like you said, Purdy is not the biggest passer in the world. So that one, again, kind of a layup in terms.
Yeah, I agree. Will the game go to overtime? Or did I skip one? No, I didn't.
Nope, you're good.
Will the game go to overtime? I'm saying no, but I hope yes. It'd be awesome to see the Chiefs somehow lose in overtime.
Be
Oh,
great.
it'd be so good. You were also in the no category.
Yeah, you just unless it's that Patriots Falcons game, you just don't get overtime. I feel like in the Super Bowl, like that's the one that comes to mind. I can't remember the last one we've had in overtime. That might have been actually the first one ever that went into overtime, if I remember correctly, or something along the lines of that. I'm gonna go with no. Like these games tend to be decided in the final couple minutes, or well before that.
Alrighty. Will Alicia Keys appear on stage with Usher? I'm gonna go yes, because I think that would be awesome.
I I don't. Is there a reason why she's linked to him? Do you know?
They've made songs together.
Have they? Because I must have not been looking right here. Like too deep into it than last night because I was trying to quickly look it up and didn't.
They're gonna sing my boo, I think.
Okay. Because she's like the betting, like massive betting favorite too. I looked again last night and minus, I think, like 540 on one of the websites I saw, which I thought was
Jeez.
insane. Post Malone was the second highest, which makes sense because he's obviously going to be there. But when I saw this, I'm like, I had to look up why she's on this prop sheet, why she's the betting favorite. Couldn't really find anything. Like, it didn't do too much digging. So going off of that from last night, I'm going to stick with no. We thought a lot of people, ourselves included, I feel like thought Rihanna was going to have a lot of people last year. She didn't have anybody. So I think Usher gonna stick to himself with the hits that he has, and I think he's gonna be the only one that shows up at this Super Bowl this year.
Ooh.
Yep, I know. Back to back
I'm
loners for the Super Bowl performances.
Yeah, come on, bring Alicia Keys out there. How many songs will Usher perform over under 9.5? I'm going under 9.
Do you have a number on the under? If you had to
8.
pick one, what's your number?
8.
8. Okay, I'm going with a heartbreaker. I think 9. Like this one is one of those ones where it's like if you take the over, you're gonna get like a gut punch. I also don't like. I like Usher. Don't get me wrong, but does he have like 10 songs that he could play at this? Yeah, you think so? Okay. Because again, that was one of the ones I looked up. Rihanna did 10, I think in like 10 minutes was the article I saw last year. Obviously that big one with the Rams. Who was the Rams? It was Eminem, Dr. Dre. I think they did like 13, but they also had like 5 or 6 people with them as well. Or in that entirety with I think Mary J. Blige and 50 Cent that came out for that. So that makes
Oh
sense
my
there.
God. I didn't even think about this. What if he does DJ's Got Us Falling in Love and Mr. Worldwide comes out?
Oh, that'd be wild. Yeah, that'd be
That would be
wild.
sick. I feel like a lot of people hate on Pitbull. He's Mr. Worldwide,
Now
guys.
that you
Come
say
on.
that, I think he was on the betting, like he was had some decent odds to show up too, which would make some sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that would be
mean,
crazy though.
he's 1,000% doing yeah. I'm referencing the list on Spotify right now. Over 1 billion plays. Like everybody knows that song. He's gonna do yeah. He's
Yep.
gonna do my boo. Most likely. DJ's Got Us Falling in Love, possible. Um, Love in This Club. I don't know if Young Jeezy will come out, but like I'd be surprised if he didn't do that one. Burn. That's 5 good ones right there. I'm not
Well,
gonna
it
run
leads
through all
into
the
the
songs.
final or the second to last question before the tiebreaker is will his first song be OMG? If
Yeah.
you say yes, I think so.
Mhm.
Like I've maybe that's not the song you think of when you think of Usher, but like that one to me is like he's gonna come out like rising out of the stage, something,
Yeah.
he's gonna have some sort of theatrics to go along with that song. So I'm glad we're in agreement on that one. I think that was one of the easier ones too.
Yes. In total number
Definitely
of points score.
go ahead and I'll finish my thought
No, you go,
afterwards.
you go, you go.
Okay. I was gonna say definitely easier than Rihanna because I think a lot like we were doing this. I remember at work last year, friends of mine, we were trying to figure out, what song she was gonna come out with. And then completely I feel like threw everybody off. I can't even remember what she started with, but it definitely wasn't anything like one of her older hits. Um, so that was I think Usher's got I feel like maybe the easier ones to pick from. What people think he's gonna start with.
No, no, Rihanna does.
Really? I can't remember what she
She has so
started
many
with.
good ones. She
She
has
no,
so
I
many
know,
good. So
but
does Usher, but
I gotta
I don't know.
try to figure
I
out what she
remember that
started
just
with.
reminded me last year. A friend of mine put out a top 30 Rihanna songs, and I forget which song he had 29th, but I was shocked by it, and I responded to him. And then she played it, and I'm like, dude, come
She
on
came
now.
out. Her
Come on
first
now.
song last year was "Bitch Better Have My Money." Like that's not the song you think of when you think of Rihanna. Or like that's not one of.
It's
It's a
close.
decent. Yeah, but it's again not one of her. Like again, I feel like OMG for Usher is like one of his classic hits, or like one of the ones like you kind of again think of when you think of Usher.
Yeah. See if I can actually find this so I can find this song.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause he put out a Rihanna list and I was disappointed with number 29. Um, I tweeted at him like during the game last year about it. Let's see if I can find this real fast. I won't spend too much time on it. Wait, what was it? A different Super Bowl? Maybe it was a different Super Bowl. It was one of the songs for whatever artist it was in a Super Bowl. I was shocked. It
Mm-hmm.
must have been last year. Maybe he deleted the tweet. Maybe I embarrassed him.
He's
Nah,
just gonna
I'm
say
just
you get
fucking around.
embarrassed and
So total points scored for me, 50, Ryan, 24.
44.
Those are the
Yep.
prop bets.
Mm-hmm.
Those be the prop bets. On to some Patriots stuff now. Ben McAdoo hired in his offensive um, assistant, has worked alongside Van Pelt in Green Bay, um, with Patriots executive Elliot Wolf. He has been lauded as a great quarterback evaluator, namely relating to Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, rating them in that draft class. Wanted the Giants to trade it for Mahomes, which would have been very interesting. It's okay, like, but
Such a gross
he's
name.
he's just not he's not like a super good coach,
Mhm.
it seems.
Yeah, it's one of
Like
those
he got fired
things.
from the Giants. Like his offenses historically like
He
haven't
was
been great.
hated with the Giants too.
Hasn't always had the best teams,
Mhm.
but it's not a hire I'm like thrilled about. But like again, new staff, new guys like making the decisions. Like I'm not gonna scream and bitch about shit until I see how it works. Um, Unless it's just somebody that's an absolute travesty of a
Mhm.
human being or coach. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like good, funny looking guy on the sidelines. I guess that's cool.
Yeah. You think he comes back out
I
with a
don't know.
slick back hair, looking like
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll see
like
how it goes, but I'm not.
mhm.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna piss and cry about it. So it
I'm
was
right there with you.
unexpected, though. It was.
Mhm.
I'll say that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a gross name. But I think one of the things that a lot of people are starting to talk about now, you mentioned it, is there's with a lot of these guys they're bringing in because didn't they just hire I think a tight end coach that used to be in Green Bay as well, or used to work
Yeah,
with.
TC McCartney.
Yeah, so I think there's been a lot of these guys. There's some familiarity there, which is good. I mean, I think you want that
Mhm.
all you with a new regime, new coach or head coach specifically. You don't want a coaching staff of guys that have never worked together. So it does make some sense to have some of these guys that kind of know each other's tendencies. But again, you just see the name and you mentioned it. Like he was not a success with the Giants in the head coaching position. You mentioned the offensive struggles. Michael Hurley had the tweet. The last four offenses McAdoo has run/worked on. 2016 with the Giants, it was 25th in yards, 26th in points. 2017 with the Giants, yeah, that's bad.
No,
20.
I'm looking at something.
Okay.
Um,
Good reaction though. I mean,
the
it fits.
Bruins have announced some news.
Breaking news. Like
The
we
Bruins
like a
announced that
sounder.
Matthew Poitras underwent a successful right shoulder open stabilization procedure today and is expected to be out for approximately 5 months.
Oh, well, that's not
I
ideal.
knew I knew that freaking shoulder injury against the Coyotes was not minor. The way he was in pain, there's no way. But Patrick, I'm thinking of football again. Um, Matt Poitras done for the year. We'll talk about that in a second as we get to Bruins
That's
stuff.
unfortunate. You hate to see that's a downer now.
It is. It sure
Yeah,
is.
promising season, promising young kid. Um, but no, just to try to finish up the McAdoo stuff. Um, again, 2017, 21st in yards, 31st in points. 2020 with the Jaguars, I didn't even know he was the quarterback's coach for the Jaguars. 28th in yards, 30th in points. 2022 with the Panthers, 29th in yards, 20th in points. So the numbers are not flashy by any means. You mentioned it, kind of what people have latched onto is his success and maybe identifying talents. You mentioned the Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson stuff. If you do look at the rest of that list, though, on the flip side, he had Baker Mayfield as the sixth ranked quarterback behind the likes of Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and Mason Rudolph. So just as much as you could argue that he's got a great eye for Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, you could also argue that Baker Mayfield is not a worse quarterback from the three guys I just mentioned. But then, like you said as
Might I say,
well,
Ryan,
go ahead.
I hope he's not high on JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix.
Now, if anybody you ask, JJ McCarthy's name is flying up the draft boards, it seems, which maybe
He
some
will
people
go in
are,
the
are
first round.
it seems like it's going to be the case.
If
Like if you ask
he
Harbaugh, he thinks he should go
escapes,
number 1 overall. But
if Minnesota and Denver stay where they are, I will be surprised if he is not a Viking or a Bronco.
okay,
Um, Jim Harbaugh thinks you should go number 1.
yeah,
That's
it's insane.
crazy.
I get backing your guy, but
The craziest
there
thing
comes a
the Chargers
time when
could
that
do
needs to
just to
not.
go banana land is trade Justin Herbert and draft JJ McCarthy.
That would be
That
wild.
would be hilarious. Won't happen.
Mhm.
They could get a shit ton for Justin Herbert though.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I don't know. I kind of got on a side tangent there with the
It's
draft.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Patriots fans at 3 need to worry about considering JJ McCarthy or Bo Nix though. That would be
Well,
crazy.
they might have
But
to consider worrying about something else if you lead into the
um,
Jeff Howe report that
yeah.
came out Saturday.
I was
And
more
now the
so
report is that
mentioning
Elliot Wolf is a.
McCarthy. I
Go
was more
ahead.
so mentioning McCarthy or Nix because of the thing you have to keep in the back of your mind if they do trade down, which is sad to me. But yes, as you were getting to about a certain position at number 3.
Yeah, Jeff Howe had the tweet or the report on Saturday that if it is Elliot Wolf, which we now know he does have personnel control, so that's a little scary with this tweet. Now that we know. The tweet being that if Elliot Wolf is running the show, expect the Patriots to give a long, hard look at drafting a left tackle with the number 3 overall pick, which scares the dickens out of me. And I do not want to happen. If they, again, you just said it, it would sadden me if they trade down, but if they trade down and draft a tackle, okay, it's not the worst thing on the planet. I guess I could swallow that. If they take one at 3, what are we doing here? Like, it should be quarterback or Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point. I don't know if we maybe briefly talked about it last week or definitely over text. I have come more around on the idea of trading a third pick for, or not the third pick, a third round pick for Justin Fields, taking Harrison at the wide receiver position at 3, and then going from there. But
Yeah.
again, we'll kind of see where that is when it
The thing
happens.
that stops the discussion with Fields for me is the extension.
Yep,
I'd rather just draft someone, get the rookie QB money. The thing with the Patriots considering a left tackle, fundamentally, it makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yep.
But
Not
you
at 3,
also, without Bill Belichick, perhaps, maybe Trent Brown is more amicable to staying. I don't love Trent Brown, but if keeping Trent Brown means you don't take a left tackle at 3,
yeah, you'll
I'll
take that
take it.
trade off.
I'll take
Absolutely.
it.
Yep.
You also have the looming idea of Mike Onwenu leaving, so that's part of the reason they're going to look hard, I think. I hope this is just due diligence because the Patriots are fortunate enough to be in a position where they really can't fuck it up unless they go outside of the box. You take a quarterback or you take the best receiver. Either one is a win. No matter which one you like more, either one is a win. Marvin Harrison is a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase level
plug and
potential
play,
receiver.
ready to go.
Possibly. You cannot draft a left tackle for that. I'm sorry. You can't. When you have the idea of potentially bringing Trent Brown back, which they could do, I don't think they will. I kind of feel like Trent Brown might leave. But you never know. Maybe he just didn't see eye to Bill. Maybe he's down to rock with Gerard and the new staff. Gerard, excuse me.
Gerard. I just don't get real quick. I don't get how.
I kind of wonder if I think Joe Alt, I've been expecting this for months. I think he's pulling ahead as the number 1 tackle, and as he should. He's like seen as a generational guy. He's like 6'8", 370. Olu Fashanu just doesn't have the physical makeup that he does. And neither does Talisa Fuaga, who's roaring up draft boards after a phenomenal Senior Bowl. Maybe the best run blocker in the class from what I've read. Right tackle. You need to be a team that absolutely needs your franchise left tackle. And for a team like the Titans, I think who consider Joe Alt heavily, they have their quarterback, or at least they hope is their quarterback, Will Levis. And do you trust Nicholas Petit-Frere, Andre Dillard? Sure. But should you pass up on a franchise potential decade-plus left tackle for any of those guys?
Probably not.
Nicholas Petit-Frere, solid player, still young at Ohio State. Andre Dillard, you can live with that. You can live with him playing over. And he'd be a good complementary piece to Peter Skoronski, who took high, I believe, a year or 2 ago, who's moved into guard. Is really good. So build that foundation on the left side of the line for Will Levis. For a team like the Patriots, though, when you're higher in the draft and you have a better chance of one of those QBs, you just can't do it. Like, for a team like the Titans, it makes sense. Not the Patriots. It just doesn't. Like, even for a team like the Bears could easily use another great offensive lineman, but they drafted Braxton Jones in like the 5th round, and he looked really good. Darnell Wright plays left tackle. He's already really good. Like, let those guys fall down the board. Like, get the sure thing. The quarterback isn't a sure thing. Marvin Harrison is pretty damn close to one, if not definitely one. You have to. But I do appreciate at the same time that they're doing their due diligence. Like, you got
it's a fair way to look at it for sure. Yep.
It's status quo, but you can. If they do trade down, though, for whatever reason, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, you can swallow it more if they trade down. Absolutely.
At 3, no, you just can't.
It's one of those things too.
At the same time, trading down and missing out on a guy like Neighbors or Harrison Jr. or QB or even Roma Dunze would be heartbreaking. So
true.
It's
one of those things too, where like, again, there are people that still have not gotten over the removal of Bill Belichick, but like, I feel like you have a little bit more buzz than you would have had if he stuck around. You kill all that draft night if you go in there with the 3rd overall pick. Don't do anything else. and then draft a tackle. Like that is just okay. We're still with this BS mentality of we're gonna be smarter than everybody, or we're gonna do these unconventional things that's gonna work out for us. Like you said, you have to pick the sure, or again in the case of the quarterback, like you said, the sure, possibly sure thing, and go on from there. Like again, tackle play is important in this league, but you can find guys in the later rounds.
Yeah.
If you have the right scouting
In the second
there.
round, you have an early second round
Yeah,
pick that's
yep,
pretty much a late first. You can get Patrick Paul,
absolutely.
Jordan Morgan, Kingsley Swamataya. I don't know how to say his name.
You want to
Sorry.
tackle so bad, this draft's got a lot of them. Like I've been saying, I would do it
If you
for a
really
different
want one,
position,
you
but
could even
trade
move
back
up.
into the first round.
Yeah, trade back into the first round.
Yep.
Not for Bo Nix, like Lance Zierlein said. Lance Zierlein said to trade up from 34 to 30 to get Bo Nix. No, not allowed. We'll be angry. We'll be angry.
Not a big Bo Nix guy.
No. Good player. Not early second round or first round. Good player.
Right.
Potentially good quarterback. Doesn't excite me.
Okay.
Can move a little bit though. I think people kind of, discredit that for him. I think a lot of people just kind of think he sucks. He's got skill, but no.
Do we play the what? Do we play the what if game? And if they take Marvin Harrison at 3, then would you accept it?
Marvin Harrison? Yeah.
Did I say Marvin Harrison? Yeah.
No. I would not be happy with that. I'd rather trade for Fields. Seriously. And it comes down to this too. Your quarterback room is dysfunctional. What is going to help you succeed more? A left tackle with potentially an underwhelming quarterback, or a potential franchise quarterback, or a number 1 receiver? The answer is simple. But yeah, it comes down to what Elliot Wolf and Matt Groh want to do. I hope Matt Groh gets in his ears when he's doing the college scouting, which he will, has been confirmed, will be his focus still. We'll get in his ear about that. And you hired a new QB coach. You got new offensive staff members. Get them a guy that they can coach up. And Alex Van Pelt has a storied history with developing quarterbacks. So Pat Stewart will be heavily involved in all aspects. He came over from the Panthers, I think, last year. Former Browns assistant offensive line coach Scott Peters is coming to New England as well. He's a former Eagles 4th-round draft pick who played offensive line in the league for 7 seasons. He also has an extensive MMA background and won 2 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championships in submission grappling for Aaron Wilson NFL. Bully ball, quite literally. Bully ball in the system. I like it. I like it. Maybe we'll, have guys doing arm bars on opposing players. I don't even know if that's jiu-jitsu, but that's just the first thing that came to mind.
I just group it all into karate.
They're filling out the staff. They also hired I forget the guy I actually meant to put it in the outline. The defensive line coach they hired, something Montgomery. Do you remember what this guy's name was?
I do not know. I meant to because there's a
it
couple
is.
things late that I wanted to
Jerry
add.
Montgomery from the Packers. Longtime defensive line coach. The D lines coach / run game coordinator with the Packers since 2015. So filling out the staff again comes down to this message. You don't need to get super pissed about any of these hires. See how it works out. Of course, unless it's just a basket case of a hire, which I don't think either of these are. Any of these are. Like Ben McAdoo might be a little bit chaotic at times, but let's see what happens. Basketball, Ryan.
Yeah. Celtics are doing things, making moves.
The Celtics made a trade. Xavier Tillman senior. Feels kind of weird to hear a senior for a guy that's 25.
At 25, yeah.
But that's the thing. Xavier Tillman was acquired a few hours ago for Lamar Stevens, one of those depth guys we expected to move. Yep. A 2027 second and a 2030 second as well. 2027 pick being from Atlanta and 2030 being from Dallas. 25 years old.
I was gonna say it's your favorite time of year with the draft picks, so you can trade up to like 2040.
Let's see how many, baby. Yep. Let's see how many. Because we had a couple with like 5 or 6 last year.
They still have like 7 of them left, so if they want to keep willing and dealing second-round picks, they can do it.
Yep, they can. He's 25. He's 6'8", 245. He's averaging 6 points a game, 4.6 rebounds, 1.7 assists and a block, and 1.2 steals. Seems like a typical, maybe not typical Brad Stevens move, but like a shrewd, maybe a little under the radar type of guy.
That's how I thought of it when I saw it.
He can potentially, he had like something about like a club option it said, but like he can hit unrestricted free agency next year. And they still have that TPE they could fit someone in. So from the reports after the trade, it sounds like Brad Stevens could make another move before tomorrow's deadline. Who that may be, I'm not entirely sure. But you might be, and so are the names we're pulling from the basketball world as potential other Celtics ads at the
Yeah, I
deadline.
mean, this obviously came out after we had pretty much the outline set in stone. So the names of some big men had come up. I think at this point, like you said, 6'8", but he can play multiple positions, can play power forward, can play center. I think this probably takes him out of the running for some of the bigger name big mans, or not big names, but you know what I mean. A big name center type of position. On Tillman, not gonna lie, I don't know a lot about the player other than the stats that you just read off. I did see it on the Celtics pregame show before we jumped on. They had a graphic up where I think he is the only player in the NBA averaging 20 minutes a game, with at least one block and one steal. So his hangs his hat on the defensive side of the ball. That's fine. We talked about this last week. I think you and I are kind of in agreement. If they were going to add a big man, you don't want a guy that's going to be a big scorer or anything like that. Be a guy that can take some minutes off of Porzingis, Horford down the stretch.
Yeah,
Cornette, who's been banged up. I didn't know this until I think Gary Washburn said this the other night on one of the late night shows on NBC Sports Boston. Keita's on as we know, a two-way contract. I did not know if that is not converted to a normal NBA contract. He's ineligible for the playoffs, so he's a guy that comes off your. What's up?
Yeah, I want Keita around.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, if they keep him on a two-way contract, he can't play in the playoffs.
I know, yeah.
So
I know,
you
but
lose.
That's what I'm saying. Upgrade that contract.
Exactly. Yep.
I love Keita.
He's been fantastic. I mean, he has at times been a I don't want to say a poor man's Rob Williams, because I feel like he has more offensive ability than Rob Williams, and that's not a knock on him. But yeah, Keita's been. I was going to say everything is advertised, but he really wasn't advertised coming into the year. He was a guy that stood out in the preseason games, and was a G League player that was really, really good. But wasn't a known commodity. He's been everything and more that you wanted out of him. The Tillman move to finish that up, I like it. Again, it gives you kind of that depth big man that we wanted from last week's show, with some defensive ability, high motor. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, Celtics fans are already going to love him because apparently this was either last year or a couple years ago. Got into it with Kyrie Irving, blocked him at the rim, knocked him on his ass, and then kind of gave him some shit on the ground. So he'll be a Celtics fan favorite in just on that alone. Like I said, brings some tenacity on defense. Not going to knock that out too much. Again, not going to ask for a whole lot of scoring off of a guy who's probably going to be your third or fourth center on the roster. So nothing too crazy there. As you mentioned, though, there's been plenty of names that have been thrown around. Both Mike Scotto and Chris Forsberg have thrown out a bunch of names. We'll start with the Scotto stuff first because he kind of had the more recent of the names. He said that the Celtics are looking to package some of their minimum contract players at the end of the rotation and draft pick compensation, which of course we saw today with the Stevens deal. To bolster their bench heading into the playoffs, league sources told Hoops Hype. Boston has expressed interest in a wide range of trade targets, including Kelly Olynyk, who we talked about last week, DeLon Wright, and Andre Drummond, and others. League sources told Hoops Hype. Like we said, we talked about Kelly Olynyk last week. The only kind of new news on that was Gary Washburn again the other night said that for Olynyk, a deal to be made there, you'd probably have to include Peyton Pritchard because of the contracts and salaries, and other bench guys. I know Olynyk was a guy that you were high on last week, if I remember correctly. Now knowing that Peyton Pritchard would have to go back, now knowing that the Celtics obviously have a center, have you come off of him? Again, they're probably not going to make a move for a center, but any thoughts on him? Any thoughts of Drummond just because we have him in the outline?
Yeah, I just don't think it's super necessary at this point. And he also carries like a decent price tag, so it might be a little more complicated at this point. I imagine, just for roster space and flexibility as well, they'd include a guy like Banton or Mikhailuk in another deal, just to make the money work however they need to. Drummond would have been cool, but I'm not like a huge Andre Drummond fan. I don't dislike him, but I'm not going to be upset that they didn't get him. I like going the younger route a little bit.
Yep.
And I think the Tillman thing kind of wipes out the need for a center now.
Absolutely.
So maybe just add a score, and one guy I'll get to once you get to that section of the outline that I would absolutely love for them to trade for if they really want to take a little bit more of a swing here.
Yeah, Drummond was an interesting name that came up, a guy that we didn't touch on last week because we obviously didn't know that they were in on him. But again, before they made the trade today, for me, I think he would have been a really, really decent get. I don't think he was going to cost a whole lot. There was a Chris Haynes tweet that came out today. There he said, a quote, acquiring Andre Drummond might I think I worded this wrong. But might require 3 second round picks, and there could be a team willing to offer at least a first round pick. So that's kind of interesting that Andre Drummond could still garner a first round pick. But he would have made a lot of sense, only making 3.36 million, so he would have fit into the TPE very easily. I didn't think he'd probably have to move really any big pieces. It probably would have been a similar trade to the one that they made. He probably would have been a guy like Stevens, and a second round pick or two going out for a guy that's on the older side at 30. But plenty of experience, plenty of ability still left, averaging 7.7 points per game this year. Good rebounder, good rim protector, good on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we know the pitfalls is it comes with the free throws and stuff like that, but he would have been a decent get. But obviously, like you said, probably off the table now without or with the Tillman trade. The other name that came up, DeLon Wright, guard for the Washington Wizards. On the older side, 31 years old, 6'5", 185 pounds. Has played in 28 games this year, averaging 4.4 points per game. He makes just over $8 million. Again, money would be tough to match up. Another one of these deals would probably be, Peyton Pritchard would be the talking point or the starting point. And for me, wouldn't hate some guard depth, but I'm not trading Peyton Pritchard in the sense to get a guy that has less offensive ability than Pritchard. Like Wright's good defensively. That's kind of the way the Celtics have been looking at this. Get a guy that can, is good on both sides of the ball. Maybe not the, most prolific offensive scorer. But for me, this I feel like would be a step back if you have to include Pritchard again, which you probably would have with the salaries matching up. Did you have any thoughts on Wright before we jumped into more of the names that Chris Forsberg have put up?
No, I agree with you though. Like, that just wouldn't seem like a Brad Stevens type of move. I think he's too smart for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one name I do like the most, and I've liked him ever since his draft year, is Sadiq Bey.
Probably
I
playing the
don't know.
Celtics right now.
I don't. Yeah, he is. I don't know how much he would cost. I imagine Pritchard would go back in a deal like that, which I'd be fine with. I've been a Sadiq Bey guy for a while. I just really liked what I read about him in the draft. Really, I'm not going to act like I watch him a bunch, but the stats back it up too. I mean, he averages 13 points a game. That's not too bad. Can rebound a little bit. Just 41, almost 42%. So 31% from three is not too bad either. Just feels like another type of skill package wise guys that Stevens could really like. So I'm all over that if they can get it done for the right price. If it costs another first round pick, fuck it, do it.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, you're in the mode
do they really need a guy like him though?
Yeah, that's the thing. It would cut into more so it'd be Hauser's minutes than anything else. Obviously, similar positions can play the 3 and the 2. Like you said, good shooter. He's been, I feel like, kind of the white whale of the Celtics team. I think the Celtics were interested in him last year or maybe the year before that as well. I feel like his name always kind of comes up. Fits into the Williams TPE pretty nicely. He's only making $4.5 million this year. The thing is, though, the Hawks, we've seen this kind of every year with them. They have a rough start to the year, kind of an up and down season. Hold on to a play-in spot for most of the year. I think they're the 10th seed right now. They've been back and forth on that all season. They always, I feel like, tend to go on a little bit of a run towards the end of the year and maybe figure some things out, sneak into the playoffs. So it kind of falls under the case of what do the Hawks think they are? Like, if they think they're sellers, basically, they'll probably move on from. What's the price tag going to be? I'm with you. If it's Pritchard and some other pieces, I would do that to get a guy that is better offensively. And like you said, we've seen Brad Stevens kind of pull trades out of nowhere before. I always allude back to the Derek White trade. This trade that comes out of nowhere, you don't really know a whole lot about it, and it ends up working out great. Could very well see Bay sneaking into that as well. But again, it all falls on to what direction do the Hawks want to go in. And if I had to guess, they probably don't see themselves as sellers because, again, they've been in this spot before, struggle, and then, find a way to sneak into the playoffs, maybe make a little bit of noise, surprise some people in a first-round matchup, and Bay's a guy that could obviously help them do just that. So I really don't know how realistic of a trade piece he might be. That's one that you have to wait and see how this game goes tonight, and then, what they end up doing tomorrow.
Yeah. So I kind of wondered with him being an RFA too, if they could work something out long term though. But I kind of wonder, would they want to do that? Like, is this a guy that is good enough to potentially be a starter potentially right away? I don't know right away, but down the road, he's only 24. Like, is this a guy you commit to long term that becomes money that's potential starter worthy money?
Yeah, I mean, he started 30. I don't know if he started tonight, so maybe it's up to 38 out of 50. But before, obviously,
but I guess I should say, is he a starter pretty consistently in the Celtics lineup next year?
Oh, no, probably not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Play similar positions to Brown and Tatum, and we've had this discussion, not starter wise, but whenever They
Like, is
play
he
the
first
Pacers,
option
and
off the bench?
yeah, it would be more that he'd be like your definite sixth man. I
Hmm.
mean, Hauser and Pritchard, we talked about them last week. They've had good years. But again, you get into crunch time, big game situations. Like, how much can you count on them to be like consistent scoring? I'm not going to say Sadiq Bey is like this killer in the playoffs or anything, but a guy that I think I would feel a little bit more comfortable coming off the bench, um, than Pritchard, than Hauser, to be that bona fide scorer. But again, he's been improving. I feel like pretty much every year he's been, a solid contributor. Does he want to take a bench role? Like you said, does he, coming up for a contract, want to be thought of as more as a starter? And that's kind of why I think too, they might stray away. Cause again, too, you got to think down the road, Tatum's contract, Brown's contract, the money's going to start to pile up.
Hmm.
Derek White's going to need a new contract. Um, is he a guy that can fit in somewhere down the line? Probably not. So that's one that they may stay away from as well.
Yeah, another guy I like too, kind of jumping around the section here. I like what you have here about this Dennis Smith guy. I feel like he could fit into like a little bit of a scorer role off the bench a little better,
Mm-hmm.
like in terms of scoring magnitude and
Yep.
playing time. But I don't know.
Yeah, again, he's one of those guys that fit into the very good two-way, 7.2 points per game. Not the best three-point shooter, but you take what you can get there. 1.2 steals. Again, good backcourt defender. He's like, I don't want to say dirt cheap because that sounds like I'm being like derogatory to the guy, but he's only making just over 2.5 million. Very easily could fit into that TPE. A guy that I feel like you're not going to have to give up a ton. I don't know where Brooklyn is in the standings, so again, it might fall under the same as kind of the Atlanta discussion of, do they think they're in the playoffs? Do they think they can make a little bit of a run, make some noise? Maybe they don't trade him, but his contract is expiring, so maybe they do want to try to get something for an expiring piece. Same thing with Lonnie Walker, who Chris Forsberg had in this article as well, who, if people remember, was very good in the playoffs for the Lakers last year.
I
Um,
do.
yeah, he was great at times. So again, could be that scoring threat off the bench. That makes me wonder if maybe he's going to cost. I would have to assume cost a little bit more than Dennis Smith Jr. But again, a guy that might be playing for a little bit more than a bench role, with a contract year coming up. So I don't know if he would take that. But Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports did report that both Lonnie Walker, the fourth, and Otto Porter Jr., a guy we talked about last week, they are both on the Celtics radar. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as
Hmm.
well. Other guys, we talked about John Conchar last week.
Sergey
Again,
Gonchar.
yeah, Sergey Gonchar. Yep. Celtics, of course, did not see him the other night when Memphis had the, as somebody put on Twitter, the CBS list of a receipt of injury or guys on their injury list, which I thought was kind of funny. Again, wouldn't hate him. End of the bench piece, just some depth there. Can give you a little bit of scoring, and again, good defensively. Kind of the same thing with Chris Dunn. Utah, again, they're in the play-in
Providence
picture.
guy.
Probably, yeah, he's local. That was something that was brought up in the Forsberg article. But again, it falls under, do the Jazz think they're in it? Does Danny Ainge prioritize getting draft picks instead of an expiring contract? He'd be, I think, one of the perfect pieces. Again, point guard with some size, can play both guard positions, can score a little bit, can play pretty solid defense. One guy I'm completely out on this, as I'm just kind of rummaging through this here. Thaddeus Young's name came up. I'm out. Good veteran, but I don't want a 35-year-old. Again, the Celtics kind of have their big now with the trade from today. So I think that takes them out of Thaddeus Young. And then the biggest name maybe out of the guard position was Alex Caruso. His name was brought up. This is an interesting one because you're going to have to make this work contract wise. 9.46 million right around there this year. Has partially guaranteed contract of 9.89 million next year. So he is more one of the longer term guys. You'd probably have to move Pritchard in this as well. But the Bulls are reportedly looking for a quote unquote OG Anunoby type deal. And if people forget what that trade looked like, Anunoby was dealt to the Knicks for RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and a 2024 second round pick. So that's probably, I mean, Pritchard's not the same level of those two players, but you got to think like young, controllable player, Pritchard, Hauser, maybe a first round pick because those two guys don't stack up, I don't think, to the ability of Barrett and Quickly. So Caruso's a guy that's going to cost you. Again, I don't know how realistic this one is from a contract standpoint, but as you mentioned earlier, Brad Stevens has surprised some people, so maybe this is a guy they keep an eye on. Do you have any thoughts on him or any of the names that maybe you didn't touch on?
Yeah, I like Caruso. He's a fun player. I'd be pretty cool with this.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gives me pause is just the money. I also don't know how willing they'd be to mirror that Anunoby deal. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like not getting my hopes up about it. But it'll
Yeah,
be a
I
great
think
pickup.
it would be. And again, Brad Stevens surprises you. I can't harp on that enough. Um, but you kind of saw, I don't want to say they played their hand. Like the Tillman move wasn't I can't remember who said, it might have been Eddie House at the start of the pregame show, where he said he's not a needle mover, but he's a guy that obviously can help you in certain areas. I think that's really all they're looking for. I think they're not looking for, a big splash of, oh, let's go get this definite sixth man off the bench. Because again, they're kind of handicapped when it comes to money and contracts and stuff like that. So I think you're probably looking at another one of these smaller moves as we talked about, maybe like a Dunn, as you said, a guy that's from, local. Maybe that's something that draws him back here. Or again, wouldn't hate Lonnie Walker, Dennis Smith, something along the lines of that.
Wow.
What happened? Did something other
Did
big
you
news
see
just break?
that block on Pritchard?
No, I did not.
Oh, watch this. It's going up. Right,
I think
24.
I might be ahead of you.
Yeah, that was an awesome play. Wow. That was like
But
the same like trajectory, obviously not as important as the LeBron one, but like came from the same angle, same type of block as LeBron back in
okay.
against the Warriors in game 7. Um yeah, and with the home run topic too, like they've kind of done that with Derek White. They did it with Brogdon, like for a while he was a home run. They got Porzingis. Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you really need a home run type move, especially with how good the team already is? Just make these shrewd Brad Stevens kind of moves. Maybe make another one for cheap. Like you got to give a second round picks. You know me, just give them. If you want to give up a first, fucking do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
first round picks don't matter. Um, yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
the good
I
thing
think
too,
they'll do one more.
I don't know if you said this when you started the discussion or brought it up. But the good thing is too is they are still
Excuse
looking.
me.
Brian Robb had the tweet I think earlier today or a couple hours ago, probably after this Tillman trade went down actually, where he said Brad Stevens and the Celtics are anticipated to continue their aggressive approach and make another move before the trade deadline tomorrow. So that's good to see. Again, I think Brad Stevens has been pretty vocal with this type of stuff before, where he's like, ownership has given us the green light to make whatever moves we have to make to improve this team. So glad they're continuing that. Glad they're not done. Again, probably not going to be a bigger deal. Maybe it would be because again, Brad Stevens likes to kind of work in the shadows here. But you get a guard, you shore up that bench a little bit more, grab some scoring, or a little bit of more of a scoring option than you have. Wouldn't hate it. Like there isn't. I'll put it this way: there isn't a deal they could make where you're going to sit there and go, "What are you doing? Like, why are you getting this guy? He sucks." Like they're making a move obviously for a reason. And I can't imagine I'm going to hate whatever comes back. I can't imagine you are either.
No, I hardly envision a scenario like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the deadline's tomorrow. Keep an eye on it. We'll recap it next week. We have a little bit of Bruins and some hockey stuff. We did have the announcement about Matthew Poitras with his shoulder out 5 months. He's donezo. So 5 months from now, that's like July. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it for Matty P. That sucks. I mean, things have just been hellish for that kid since he came back from the World Juniors. Didn't get the job. They didn't get the job done in the World Juniors. Such a shame the USA had to do that.
Hate to see it.
Got a little flack for his performance. Like he was kind of pedestrian, but I'm not really too worried about it. And he has a couple stints with injuries, like one short one. Then the stint that led to this one with the hit on Jersey a few weeks ago, screaming in pain. They kind of passed it off as like a day-to-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking buy that shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say read the
He was
writing on the
in way
wall
too
there.
much pain.
Yeah.
There's no way that was day-to-day, unless he just caught the absolute worst of it somehow without it being serious. Sucks. Like just a nightmare. Second half really. Like he comes back to it and it looks like it's gonna be good. Like he had 2 points against the Lightning in his first game back. Then was a little quiet. That's okay. He's a rookie in and out of the lineup due to like the load management plan. Then he gets hurt against Arizona, and his season's over. But overall, when you're talking about Matthew Poitras' season, I think this is a good building block for him. Just got to recover and come back stronger next year. I think it goes back to summertime last year. Like nobody even expected him to be on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who thinks he should go back to Oshawa, well, now that wouldn't have been an option. So it sucks. But I think it's fine. Shit like this happens. It's
Yep.
unfortunate, but it also goes back to the fact we didn't know how much he was gonna play in the next few weeks. So just things got kind of weird in his development, and it's just a shame it had to end the season like this for him. But I'm excited about the kid still. He's got a lot to build on next year. He's gonna be extra motivated, I imagine, with this news. And that's that. Anything from you on Matthew Poitras?
Excuse me. No, just kind of what you echoed. Like it stinks, obviously, because it was a guy you had a lot of. I mean, not a lot of high hopes for going into the year, but obviously those hopes kind of grew as the season went on because of how well he started off and looked like he was progressing. So that stinks. That takes a little bit of a hiccup here. But like you said, you think he'll be back. And kind of you hope back to the level of play he was at when next year starts. But it sucks because again, a guy that you were kind of hoping to see get back into things and play well down the stretch.
Yeah, you just gotta accept reality in a
Yep.
situation like this, unfortunately.
Injuries happen. Not much you can do about it.
Injuries
Like
happen.
it sucks.
Exactly. And another prospect related note I wanted to mention from Robert Chalmers here on Twitter at Ivan. For anybody who may remember when Ryan Mougenel really called out Fabian Lysell in December, right before Christmas, made waves. And Robert noted that since Mougenel said this, Fabian Lysell is over a point per game in 20 games since 22
Good.
points in 20 AHL games. I've been kind of sneakily beating the drum. At this point, I would like Fabian Lysell on the Bruins. I think he's responded too well to not do so at this point. Um, I wonder if the absence of Patra and Boquist coming back down to earth makes them want to call up Johnny Beecher as well. Mason Lowry took like a cut from a skate on the leg or something, so he's recovering from a minor injury right now. Don't know if we'll see him back up, but I'll spoil something. I want Matt Grzelcyk and Derek Forbort out of the lineup more often.
Yep.
Derek Forbort just hasn't been himself since he returned from injury. The foot speed was not good last night. He got blown away by Noah Hannafin. I would like Parker Wotherspoon more in the lineup, and I would like Mason Lowry back up when he is healthy and ready. And I think they got to start kicking the tires on trading Matt Grzelcyk because somebody's going to be desperate enough to want him. And you saw last night that your left side defense being better could have really helped against a team you lost to that you definitely should have beaten.
He's useless. Real quick on that, like I was just gonna say, Forbort, you can in that sense you kind of give the benefit of the doubt to a little bit more because, like you said, he is coming back from injury. It's gonna take some time to get back to where he was. Watching that game last night, like Grzelcyk, haven't watched it like him closely. I feel like that maybe you or like other people have this season. I'm starting to realize he's basically useless out there. Like he does not do anything anymore for you, and it's like very aggravating to watch when it comes to him. And it sucks as a
Yeah,
guy gets again that you liked, you know, for what he's done in the past, but
you
the
have to move
fall off
on.
for him has been it's run its course. Like you need to do something with it. And I'm kind of surprised that you maybe think that he would have some trade value with how
I
poor his
do.
season has been.
I think some team would be desperate enough to give you like a third round pick for him. I
Okay,
do.
and then in that case, I think you have to take it. Like,
Maybe not with the performance, but I think like if he was available, teams would pony up. Like
okay,
maybe you get like a fourth even. I would do that at this point. Like you're not gonna keep him.
hmm
If Parker Wotherspoon wants to stay, you can slot him in next year. Mason Lowry is going to be a full-time NHL defenseman at this rate next year. And on top of that, Hampus Lindholm putting up a lot of points since like Christmas, but Hampus Lindholm kind of sucks. Like I'm gonna be honest. Like
he's not very
outside
not
of
very
putting
noticeable out
points,
there. Like,
he's a horrible defender in the slot. He hasn't been taking as many penalties lately, but for stretch
there
of the
was a
season, his
stretch,
penalties been
yeah.
really bad,
Yep.
which is very weird because he's always been a very cerebral puck moving defenseman, smart guy, especially when he got traded here as well, and even in his time in Anaheim. And he's just like completely lost it hockey sense wise a lot of the time. He's not very good. I don't know what
hmm
it is. It's got to be something mental. Hopefully, coming back from a little rest in the All-Star break, he figures it out. But the team in general has been bad at defending the slot, which isn't great. And I think you need some fresh faces on the defensive core like Lowry and Wotherspoon to help remedy that because look what happened last night against the Bucks. You lost to a team that you shouldn't have.
It was
This was
brutal last night.
yeah, I gotta pull up this Jay Fresh tweet. He tweeted one of his micro stat cards. He said Bruins are quality over quantity, which I admire, but guys, maybe cover the slot a bit better. I'm trying to find the slot he's actually cross slot passes. Oh, that's offense. Okay. Yeah, they're 32nd in defending the slot cross slot pass. That's largely because of Hampus
Not
Lindholm, in
good.
my opinion. Not great. Center lane passes 21st ranked. Behind the net passes 16th. They allow a ton of attempts, 26th. One-timers, 22nd. Rush shots, 24th. In zone shots, 22nd.
Not good.
Further solidifies the fact that they need a defensive upgrade. I'll go back to the Jake Middleton and Pat Maroon thing. I would like Jake Middleton. I would like the left side to look like ideally Lindholm, Middleton, and Wotherspoon. And if Wotherspoon needs to sub in every once in a while for Mason Lohrei, so be it. I'm over it. I think Derek Forbort should be your 7th or 8th defenseman, and I think they should explore a trade for Matt Grzelcyk. If not, you dump Derek Forbort with a 5th-round pick to a team. Like, just get rid of one of them. You have to. And at this point, if you're relying on Matt Grzelcyk in the playoffs, do you really feel confident that it's going to be different this year?
Nope.
Do you want to take that risk? Like, it hasn't been good in the years past. Like, it's not always terrible with Matt Grzelcyk in the playoffs, but he does get pushed around, and he's a different player in the playoffs. He is less effective.
Mhm.
It's kind of bizarre, but they need to fix the left side of the defense. I'm not in the camp of shelling out a ton of assets for Noah Hanifin. I'd rather wait till the summer, like I talked about a month ago. It seems to be a badly kept secret that Noah Hanifin is eventually going to end up with the Bruins around the league. Not sure how true that is at this point. It was a little while ago. So you take a run at him in the summer. Totally fucking on board for Noah Hanifin on a long-term deal in the summer. I think he's hitting his stride really, even on a bad team. And, the sample size has been there in the years past. I think he's, a good enough player to justify committing long-term too. That's a little spiel. Got me thinking about it too as they played Calgary last night. They lost 4-1 to a team that just traded a top 6 center. Got a guy who scored last night and caught Andrei Kuzmenko back. They lost 4-1. They're at 10 regulation losses. It took till February 6th to hit double-digit regulation losses. Swayman makes 25 saves on 29. I don't think he was the sharpest last night at times. The Flames outshoot the Bruins 29-22. They were 50% on the power play. It was a pretty terrible game by the Bruins, to be honest. Like, first period in particular, looked like they were still on vacation. The Kuzmenko and Zary goals were both very easy, in my opinion, way too easy. I think the defense was pretty lax. Pavel Zacha's goal gives them life, but it takes a 5-on-4 or 5-on-3 at the time to get there. Good to see him score too. He's kind of struggled to put the puck back in the net for a while. Puck in the back of the net for a while. You had Marchand going to the box for kind of a stupid reason.
For
Did a little
getting
bit of a
cross-checked
slash,
in the
but like
face.
he did a little bit of a slash, but I don't think it was fully intentional. I think he kind of hesitated as he did it too, and just unfortunately made contact. I guess you call it, but I don't know. I think he just called a 5 in a game there. That's just me. Kind of funny to see him go to the box for that. McAvoy, I don't really know what he was doing on the Huberdeau goal. He's along the wall. He's got one guy pitting him off on the boards. He's got the other guy right here. He tries to split them and loses the puck. Huberdeau scores. It was kind of a softie by Swayman, I think. I think Swayman should have had that. But it was also a good, well-placed shot for a guy that's played horrible this year, so that's not great. In Jonathan Huberdeau. For a guy like McAvoy, I was pretty surprised to see him not just chip it off the boards there for a guy of his skill. But it was a funky night last night. The Hanifin goal, like we said, Forbort gets blown away. That's another guy too. You have Grizzly getting pushed around. Do you want to have Derek Forbort in your lineup every night in the playoffs if he's going to get blown away?
Probably not.
He's never been a fast guy. He's, his penalty killing. He hasn't been vintage Forbort on the penalty kill since he's come back. I don't think you can rely on him in the playoffs unless he figures it out. I think he's still moving a little gingerly from his injury. I don't know. Could just be overthinking it, but they need to fix things on the left side and potentially call Fabian Lysell up because now with Nomad Patra potentially take a center spot, you can move Morgan Geekie to the center and you can put Fabian Lysell right on the third line, whether it's with Lauko or Heinen on the left. I would like to see that, please. 22 points in 20 games. Like he's had a really good AHL career for the most part, outside of the concussion that kind of derailed things a little bit like a year or two ago. they kind of hesitate to call their first round picks up, and it kind of pisses me off.
It's a little bizarre, isn't it? Yeah.
We saw it for a while. Like Pastrnak played a little bit in his time in the AHL, but they eventually called him up. John Beecher took a little bit of time, but they called him up. Like McAvoy, I think played one AHL game, so that's not one of them. Like in the past, like Jake DeBrusk, I don't think played a ton of time in the AHL. They called him up. Why are they waiting so long on Fabian Lysell when he's playing this good? I don't get it. I like Oscar Steen too. If he needs to sit out every once in a while for Lysell, he moves someone down. That's fine.
It's definitely not the
Like,
worst thing, yeah. And I like Steen.
and call up Johnny Beecher. Like I sent you that video once. That guy looks fucking miserable in
He
AHL.
really
Like
does, yeah.
like he wants to be back up. You stand more to gain from developing a young center, a former first round pick at the 4C spot, which he's played pretty good at times, than have him playing in the AHL and probably being pissed about it. Boquist had a couple great games when he was called up. The luster's kind of worn off. He's still like a 13th forward at best to me. I think they need to make some real lineup adjustments here and get the post All-Star break stretch going on the right foot. And it starts with Johnny Beecher, Fabian Lysell, and figuring out the fucking defense. I'd like them to make a trade now. You see Elias Lindholm going well before the deadline. You see Sean Monahan going well before the deadline. I would like the Bruins to pony up on the left defense market.
Be proactive.
Sooner rather than later.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
Look, somebody will take Matt Grzelcyk. I promise. I kind of feel like they're going to hesitate, though, partially because of the fact that his dad works for the team. I think that plays factor into it. I really do. Could be tinfoil hatting a little bit.
Not ideal, but
could definitely see Vancouver coming up. What'd you say?
I said I could definitely see it. I mean, we joke about it all the time. Not that it's kind of the same, similar situation, but like how many times we joked about like, oh, they like this guy because he played at Boston College, or he's from BC, or he's from somewhere in New Hampshire, in New England. Like,
yeah,
wouldn't be the craziest thing. I don't think it's that much of a tinfoil hat type of thing to say that. Like,
it's part. Yeah, I think it's got to be part of it. And like the thing with Middleton too, we talked about it last week. He's going to cost a little extra because he has such an affordable contract at under $2.5 million for the next 2 years. Do it though. Do it. Just do it. Do you want to have to worry about this? The storylines after when your defense gets pushed around and you go out in the first round again? I fucking don't.
No, I'm right there with you. Like,
and Jake Middleton might cost you like a decent amount, but he's not like an Elias Lindholm that's going to cost you a great defensive prospect, a B-level defensive prospect, a first-round pick, and a guy that scored 40 goals last year. I think Kuzmenko scored 40 goals last year, I think. He was close at least. Make a move. Like, I want them to fall into the category of guys, teams like Winnipeg and Vancouver and do something well before the deadline, because not only does it help your team now, it helps these guys get acclimated, well in advance of the deadline and to the playoffs if they were to be traded like on deadline day. Kuzmenko had 39 last year, so close enough.
Well enough.
Let's do it. They're not going to, but let's do it. I'm just gonna be real. They're not going to, but
a man can dream.
Hopefully they do before the deadline. A couple days, maybe a little more. Vancouver. JT Miller having another really good year. 68 points in 50 games, pacing them on the score sheet. Elias Pettersson also very good. Quinn Hughes just got Lindholm, who scored a couple goals last night. Look out. 34-11-5, 69 points. First in the Pacific. Very good team. Very good test for the Bruins. Washington, I'll be there. They're 22-19-7, 51 points, 7th in the Metro. I think it'll be my first time ever seeing Ovi, which would be cool, even though he's sadly declining. Dylan Strome, just to show how hard offenses come to the Capitals, leads them with 33 points in 48 games. That's not going to cut it.
That's pretty rough, yeah.
Yeah, but then you have teams like Tampa Bay, where Nikita Kucherov is 85 and 49. Again, not the Tampa of old, but they're still pretty good. It'll be a good test. Washington is a winnable game, though, that they should. But other news, the Four Nations face-off in 2025 and the 2026 Olympics were announced. The NHL will be participating in both, and the Czech Republic is not involved for the Four Nations face-off, which will be partially in Boston, which is so peak NHL because, Bruins have a pretty good Czech player in David Pastrnak, and he's very pissed.
I was just going to say that. He's pissed, I saw the other day.
He is not thrilled. It's a huge disappointment, he said. I don't know how much I can say. Definitely not happy about it. I'm not going to watch the tournament, to be honest. Also, Pavel
It's,
Daka is Czech as well.
it's
So
pretty
is
rough.
Jakub Lavko.
I'd like to know how much the NFL or the NFL, yeah, the NHL cares about that one of their best players, and I'm
David
not gonna get into
Pastrnak is
like
top 5 player in the league.
markability. Yeah, but that's what I was gonna get in. Like, I'm not gonna get into the whole marketability argument and discussion, but like, I feel like David Pastrnak's pretty marketable. Like,
Oh yeah, he sure
one of the
is.
maybe one of the faces of your league. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when he's saying
No,
stuff like that, it's not a great look.
no, and the NHL just really can't help themselves.
Hmm.
Sean Monahan to the Winnipeg Jets for a 2024 first and a conditional third. The third will be transferred to the Montreal Canadiens in 2027. We're at that time of year when you see another year pop up in uh, trades that you're not used to. And 2027 is that year this time last year, 2026. Montreal will get Winnipeg's 2027 third if Winnipeg wins the cup. At the very least, getting a first for a guy that you also got a first from Calgary for last year and a cap dump, turning him into two and potentially a third is very shrewd GM work from Ken Hughes. Not much more I can say. Like, Sean Monahan's great. He gives a lot back defensively. Maybe that changes in a different system in Winnipeg, but they rejuvenated his career. He got, his trajectory got fucked over by hip surgery. Wasn't the same player for a couple of years, but he's still good. Expiring contract, but this is a perfect type of move that Winnipeg needs. They need a number two center. I put a lot of money on them to win the cup after this because I think they're very good and I think they might be the deepest team in the league. Their defensive core is phenomenal. Dylan Sandberg has really come along and found a nice fit with Nate Schmidt. Nice little rhyme there again. I think Winnipeg's loaded. I think this is a move they needed. I think they might not be done, might add some depth, but great move by them. And great move by Montreal as well. I mean, they got two first round picks and potentially a third for a once depreciating asset. So, got to give credit where it's due there. Jesse who's on the Penguins on a PTO. He's been recovering from hip surgery. Also, hasn't had the best last few years for the most part. Penguins gave him a chance though, PTO, and now a 2-year, $1.6 million contract. If they can get anything out of Jesse this is worth it. This is a guy that was drafted 4th overall in 2016. At the top of his game is pretty solid. Like, I don't think he's ever going to become that potential first line winger that he was thought of out of the draft, but a nice little move for the Penguins. See how it works. Jesse can be a solid player for them. And Zach Parise, I feel like this move kind of fell under the radar a couple weeks ago. Zach Parise joining the Minnesota Wild, or no, thinking of his former team, the Colorado Avalanche. He made his Avalanche debut last night, so we'll see how he does. Maybe this is like a back half of the career. You get him a cup type of situation. That would be pretty cool if it weren't to be the Bruins to see Zach Parise win one. Corey Perry had that whole snafu, get this contract bought out, signed by the Oilers. Zach Parise, it's the Avalanche. Someone give Phil Kessel a contract.
I'm shocked he hasn't gotten anything yet.
He's working out. He's won 3 cups. You telling me you're too good for a guy with 3 cups? He won a cup last year.
A little bit of a difference maker.
Yeah, like, sure, he didn't play last year in the playoffs. Good to have that guy around.
Absolutely,
Great
yeah.
vibes guy.
Yep.
Like, phenomenal vibes guy. I think you could easily say one of the funnier guys in the league if you hear the stories about him. Somebody should give Phil Kessel a shot. Come on. Hot Dog Phil. The legend needs to grow.
Hot Dog Phil.
What if he wins a 4th one? Like, that would be awesome. I don't think it'll be with the Bruins, though. Just, I think some people want the reunion out there. I don't think it'll happen. Could, though. Elliot Friedman on the Jeff Merrick show about the Yotes. He said, I think we're coming to the end of the line with this ownership group. I believe if there isn't something hard and fast in place in the very near future, they will begin the process of selling the team or the NHL taking over the team. Boston has recognized this name. Marty Walsh now with the NHL. Was very disappointed in the lack of progress, despite the owner, I think his name is Alex Morillo of the Coyotes, expressing optimism about the situation. And it looks like Salt Lake City is going to get that 33rd spot. I don't think they need to make 33rd teams, but they're aiming to do so. No other team is more than 30. No other league is more than 32 teams. I think it seems like at some point they might get to 36 by 2030. That's just crazy.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's bad.
Yeah, but they like Cincinnati, they like Houston, maybe. Kansas City has a somewhat ready like T-Mobile arena, I've heard, for it. T-Mobile Center or something. Um, People throwing a Quebec City. Maybe Arizona relocates and comes back at some point. I don't know. Arizona's a shit show though. I don't blame Marty Walsh for being pissed. Um, they're just a train wreck. You can't. It's not a good look when you have a team potentially playing in a college ring for multiple years. Beyond this, which
Right.
might not happen at this point. I don't know all the details, but we'll see what happens there. Looks like Salt Lake City and Jazz owner Ryan Smith are getting their wish. We also heard that the Suns owner Matt Ishbia is not interested in purchasing the Coyotes, so there goes an option there. And lastly, Brendan Dillon was suspended 3 games for hitting the Noel Dozer, old friend Nola Chari, in the head. Got a little like upper arm shoulder contact last night and was suspended 3 games. So, speaking of the Jets and their awesome defensive core, it takes a little bit of a hit. Any closing thoughts for hockey before we unfortunately talk a little bit of Red Sox? Very little bit of Red Sox.
Yeah, exactly. Just don't come out as sluggish as you did the other night, because that
Mhm.
game was very rough to watch. It was maybe the most bored I've been watching a Bruins game in I don't know how long, because it was, you said it though, the prototypical, like, coming out of the All-Star break, get a little sluggish. You hoped, I was talking to a guy at work tonight, he kind of was hoping that they'd come out the opposite way and be, balls to the wall. Maybe that was because he bet the over in the game, which I don't know how I would have done that first game back from the All-Star break, but what do I know, as the residential hockey guy here. Um, but yeah, just you said it's a tough test coming up. Maybe a bit of a cupcake in the middle there, but keep the focus and try to bounce back at the best they can.
Yep, that's about it. We shall
Mhm.
see. I'm kind of in the same boat.
They tend to
At
get
this
up for
point.
these games, like the ones I know.
Mhm.
I keep rambling here, but like the Vancouver and Tampa Bay games coming up, we've seen them obviously play Tampa well this year. They tend to. We talked about it in the Colorado game a couple weeks ago. Surprised that they were able to skate so well with Colorado. So it seems like they get up for these bigger games, like the Vancouver one coming up. So that'll be an interesting one to see. Like I said, if they can bounce back and play well in that one.
Yes, and I'll reiterate it. Call up Lysell Beecher and Low Rye. Maybe not Low Rye.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little trickier. You got a more of a log jam there, but less Grizzly, less forward. I think Parker Wotherspoon should pretty much be a permanent left side defenseman. He's been really good.
Okay.
You got him as AHL depth, and he's a plus level asset. Keep it that way. Let him keep earning his keep because he's a good player, and you need it on the left side because even your best guy on the left side kind of sucks sometimes. Um, Need to address that.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Sox are getting a documentary for some reason.
Well, it's the baseball equivalent of Hard Knocks, which I don't hate. Like, I like that they're going this route with the MLB. I think it'd be interesting to follow a team through spring training and throughout the regular season. Obviously, with baseball being, the regular season as long as it is, so many games, there's so many storylines that come out throughout a season. But I think you tweeted it out talking about the tone deafness of this team, or you either sent it to me or I can't remember what you did on Twitter today with it. But you're 100% right. Just this team cannot get out of its own way with this type of stuff. It's hilarious at how tone deaf and just blatantly just not obvious these things are, or oblivious. That's the word I was trying to think of. That they are these type of things. Like, again, this is a cool concept, but with the off season that they have had, and the season they're probably about to have, the lack of interest, the lack of, maybe this is why they did it, to get people interested. But with how much of a dumpster fire the season's about to be, and again, maybe that's why they decided to go with the Red Sox, because people know that they're going to be a car crash. You can't look away from it. Um, just terrible timing. And again, you got to think Fenway Sports Group's getting some money out of this. So again, that filters into the, your money and your mindset is focused elsewhere. I'm just blown away by it because, again, I think the timing is just so them. That's kind of my mindset on it. Again, like, I like the concept of the idea of like a Hard Knocks baseball, but the fact that it's the Red Sox. The other thing too that we were talking about, that the tweet that we both saw, that the Red Sox are going to obviously have final say in what gets put on this show and what doesn't. Like, that's so typical Red Sox too. Of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, anything bad you have to say about our baseball team, go bury that out in like left field, and we're not going to touch that at all. It's only going to be sunshine and rainbows with this team. And what's, again, predicted to be an absolutely dreadful season. Now, if people missed it, this is going to follow them throughout this year and won't debut until 2025, I believe, is what the concept of it was. But again, we all know what the season's going to be. There's rumors that they're going to trade. We're not going to touch on it a whole lot, but rumors are going to probably trade Kenley Jansen. So that's another decent piece of this team off the roster. So
And Jared Duran's name is
and
up there.
Jaron, which that one I don't mind necessarily as much as the Jansen stuff. Really quick, because obviously I think Duran should be able to get you something decent in return. Like Jansen's probably going to get you like a prospect or something like that. Duran should be able to get you a controllable starting pitcher or
Yeah,
controllable
that's
other
fine.
piece to your team, which I'm fine with. And plus, you have outfielders coming out of your ears in the minors. Like Roman Anthony is going to need a spot at some point. They're going to give Willie Abreu a bigger role this year, it would appear. So Durant's probably on the outside looking in if I had to guess. I would rather trade him, but maybe it sounds crazy than Yoshida. Because again, we talked about it when those rumors came out. What just me personally thinks from an outside looking in, what trading a guy you signed last season and gave a decent contract to looks like. That's where I'm at of that. But do you have any thoughts again, really quick? Because we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this. Your thoughts on the Netflix deal, if you like just the idea of it, keeping the Red Sox out of it or whatnot.
I think it just makes no sense at all.
How so? Like you're not keen on the hard again.
Why
Like
would
it's
you
literally just
why would
baseball hard
you
knocks
why would you want, like, I get it in the NFL sense because they've built the Hard Knocks like series.
off of that. Okay. Yep.
Why would you want, like, do they think this team's gonna be good? Money, of course.
It's a
Do
money thing.
they
Yeah,
honestly
that's all
think
it is.
somewhere in their mind the team is gonna be good?
The picking of the team is weird. Like if you really wanted to
Like,
die, and
obviously
you
you're not
really
gonna pick like the Dodgers, but like,
see, I was gonna go in that direction, but maybe again, like and then I just thought about it. Like Hard Knocks doesn't tend to pick the most again, not like shitty
yeah, maybe
teams,
they
but the
just want to
most
pick the most
prolific.
like
Like
divisive teams.
yeah,
I guess,
like
but
I was
like,
gonna say, you don't see
I
like
don't
the
know. It's just
Chiefs on
all
Hard
money.
Knocks. So,
Stupid.
but that's exactly what it is. And it was like I'm curious if this is something like. Would it surprise you if like John Henry and Fenway Sports Group went to Netflix and was like, "Hey, we have a great idea for you guys to make money and us to make money too. Let's partner together and make this baseball series, year after year. But we want to be the team that's the first one on it." So you brought up a good point though. It is if there was going to be a time to do it with just how much the outside baseball realm just is just questioning this team left and right. It is, and maybe that's what they're going to lean into. Maybe the Red Sox are in ownership are hoping they actually have a good year, and then they can put this documentary out there and have it all, or not documentary, you know what I mean? Um, all these naysayers and look at how all these people doubted us going into the year, and then the year we had was great. It's not going to happen. We know that. Again, they're still trying to blow this roster up as we sit here with Truck Day the other day. But again, the timing of it just could not have been worse, and it just continues to be hit after hit for this team, with really no end in sight of anything getting better. Like they can again lie to you all they want. Sam Kennedy the other day saying this roster isn't done being built yet. Load of crap. Like you're gonna trade pieces off it. You're not building anything to it. You're putting anything on it. So I'm not taking that cheese or anything or that bait or anything like that. We know we're not stupid here. We might be liars in the eyes of Sam Kennedy, but
Yeah,
we're
we're
not stupid.
liars.
Yeah.
We're liars, Ryan. I think that's gonna wrap it up.
I think so. It just again, that was a little fun thing that came out
Yeah.
today about them to
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
I don't know if you classify it as in the realm of the way the Red Sox are being stupid this week, like we've done the last couple of weeks. Because again, I think the concept's kind of interesting. Maybe that's just a baseball fan in me, but man, the fact that it's the Red Sox, like bad timing, very bad timing.
Yeah, they're fucking stupid. That's gonna wrap it up for episode 179. Big 180 next week, following the Super Bowl. Thank you so much for listening, new and old listeners. You can find us wherever you find your podcasting and rate and review on Apple and Spotify. You can download the full press coverage app and listen there. Follow us on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Selling Cratty Pod. We're also on TikTok. Just throw that out there. We don't really post. Sometimes we post, but when we post, it's good. We'll see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, especially Super Bowl Sunday. Don't be stupid and get in a car when you had too much to drink. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.